A lot of us are feeling the summer vibes, right? So it's a little hard to sort of focus on every little thing that you hope you could ever get done with your LifeVantage business. I'm going to go through a few housekeeping items real quick and then blaze right through to some of the hot tamales that I got on my team that are still working through the summer so that they can share their tips with you on what they're doing to keep the vibe alive. So first of all, we're in the last few days of wrapping up our run for Cabo San Lucas, the free trip to Cabo. So hopefully you know what you need, and if you're feeling confused, reach out to your nearest Pro 5 to, contact their account manager and see where you are at with that. Also, the last few days for the Axio challenge that we announced in the Facebook group for Team Global Aloha. Whoever sells the most Axio this month, getting a prize, and new customers also have a raffle. So go check out the details for that either in the group chats or in our Facebook group. And just a notice that the pace setter bonus that we've been having for some years now comes to an end this month. So June is the last month that LifeVantage is doing the pace setter bonus. And so you'll definitely want to tune in to Elite Academy on July 10th to find out why, to find out what's taking its place. They made some changes, and it sounds like mathematically it's going to work out better for all of us. So just one more reason to make sure you get your ticket to the Virtual Elite Academy on July 10th. Also, the global convention in October is sold out for attending it live, but you can still get your tickets to see it virtually, and that is how you learn and you grow in this business and you get to accomplish what the people on stage and holding the microphone have been able to accomplish. So, speaking of accomplishments, I am going to pass the mic over real quick here to a wonderful Pro 3. She's probably the person who pipes up the most for me, Jennifer McTighe out of Vermont, who has been spending her summer here with us on the Garden Island of Kauai, working to slow yourself down. Daisy and Amayan's store in downtown Hanalei, and she just has a super bright and beautiful way that she tackles this business every day. So Jennifer, why don't you go ahead and share what keeps you alive in the summer?
Thanks, Jennifer Alice. I hope you can hear me well enough. Yeah, summertime when the living is easy, right? My focus is definitely the 90-day business model. And I use the incentives to make that happen for myself. It really keeps me moving forward and just rolling through the momentum. It's an easy way to create goals because really corporate is laying out the incentive for you. So I just make that my goal of how to achieve it. So it's June. So this is the Wanderlust 90-day focus for me. So I also have this thing where I push right to the last day of the month. I feel like I get this little like wiggle in me, kind of like, oh, it's only 1 week. I'm just going to move into July. And actually, I stop myself and I say, nope, you're going to build this business right till the last day of every month. And it gives me some fun vibes. I push through it. I guess I could share my simple plan with you. I do the action consistently every day. And I just really do keep it simple. And anybody can reach out to me anytime and I can chat about that and how I do it. It will lead us to the results that we're looking for if we just focus on that action. So a few things for me that I do is I follow the team thread. I'm on the team call and the Wednesday overview. If I can't make the team call and the Wednesday overview, I absolutely make sure I listen to the recording before next week. And I invite at least one person to the overview every week. And some people say, oh, that's one person. I can do more than that. Well, great. But if I focus on one every week, then I stay consistent with it. And usually it ends up being more because I get on a roll. So I guess it's just that simple action, roll with the 90-day business. And a little challenge for you that I have is to just check in with yourself and just see every day, like be aware of how this amazing business makes you feel, like how your LifeVantage business makes you feel. So does it make you feel excited, energized? Does it make you smile? Do you feel your best like after you do some of this work? So is it personally like one of the most powerful things that you do in your day? I guess something that I also do make sure that I attend every week is the success mastery. So team thread, team call, Wednesday overview, the success mastery, and then every day I'm weaving in the social media. And as I rattle it off, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And I think there's so much more out there that you can focus on that can get me a little distracted. So I kind of stick to this little core lineup. And I would love to just leave you with my one little tidbit. I also try to walk away from each of these things with something to hold on to, like a little mantra. And the one I took away from Saturday's Success Mastery that I'm holding on to is from Melody. And she says that we are creating and sharing solutions to achieve a higher quality of life. So we are creating and sharing solutions to achieve a higher quality of life, right? It just makes me feel wonderful. I was nervous before I got on here, and like the action I was just talking about, like now I feel high on life. I feel great, and I want to share this with somebody. Maybe there's somebody right here that can hear me. So I love you all, and thank you so much. You all are a beautiful piece of my life. Aloha.
Wow, Jennifer, thank you so much. Perfect, perfect, and the perfect color to kick off our sunny summer call. Thank you so much for sharing your outrageously optimistic vibe. I love your motto, work and play every day. Okay, let's move it along. We have a few more people to share. My sister Jessica Murray, a pro 4 in this business. I remember when we first started, I thought to myself, hey, even if it takes me 10 years to get to pro 7, like that's still a really nice monthly check. And it did take me almost 7.5 years, but totally worth it. My sister is like the picture of consistency. My sister has a lot more to do in life than I do, and she somehow never drops the Life Vantage ball at the same time. And so, anyway, I could go on and on gushing about my sis, but go ahead and share, Jess.
Thank you, sister. So how I'm fitting Life Vantage into my summer is not too much different from how I fit it in on a regular basis. I made a choice a long time ago that I was going to make a lot of short-term sacrifices for this long-term result. And so I'm in it for the long haul. And I think that everybody kind of needs to come to that sort of choice and decision in their business, no matter what it is. And so I think it starts there personally, and that includes what I'm going to do for the summer, like seasonally speaking. So for me, it's actually quite similar to Jennifer that just shared, Jennifer McTagg. I have like a routine, and I have a set Life Vantage minimum that I'm going to be meeting on a weekly basis for sure. I'm showing up for the trainings. I'm doing my own trainings for my team. I'm going to be at Success Mastery. I know I'm signing up for the virtual events. I'm going to global. Like the training is key to helping to make that choice on a daily basis of plugging in and building this business. And so showing up and building that belief in yourself. And for me personally, I'm like a science geek. So I love tuning into the science-based stuff that builds my belief in biohacking. It builds my belief in nutrigenomics and in what this company is offering us as distributors and the world in terms of health. I also like to set goals for myself, like weekly goals. I want to reach out to a certain number of people, and some weeks it's different. Like some weeks I'm on fire and I want to talk to 5 to 10 people, and some weeks I'm just like, okay, if I reach out to one person this week, I will be happy. But it is a weekly changing thing for me. And I think that's natural. I think that we flow in and out, and there are times when we can go, and there are times we need to back off a little bit for our own sanity or just to honor how we're actually feeling. So I try to be really close to that aspect, and I set weekly goals for talking to people. I also set monthly goals and seasonal goals. Like I have a mindset seasonal goal for the summer where I really want to work on what I'm putting out there in terms of how I'm thinking and how I'm acting. And so I'm listening to a lot of mindset recordings and stuff like that, and really delving into the things that might be holding me back from becoming really successful. So that's one of the things that I'm doing to fuel myself for LifeVantage in the summertime. But for me, what really works, and this is going to sound boring, and this is what makes me show up, and this is what makes me consistent, is I make a schedule and I stick to it. And I did this because before I became really serious about LifeVantage, I just had the one schedule, right? It was showing up for work. I have a schedule at work I had to show up for. And then I realized that I could actually do that in my time that I have away from that job. And if I can be show up for that and be consistent with that, then I can really actually plan out my life and keep it balanced better that way, rather than being like all gung ho one week and not doing anything the next week. I can be very consistent if I schedule it. So my calendar, it looks like a rainbow. I have highlighters where I schedule in the non-negotiables. When do I have to show up for work? When do I need to rest? When am I going to exercise? When am I making meals and eating meals? And when am I connecting with people that are important to me, my family? Those are all non-negotiables. All the other time, I look at what needs to happen in terms of play or rest, because that is, I think, very important. Also, unplugging. Some people have Sabbath, and I think that's awesome because it does make you unplug from the world materially and plug into yourself and spirit. And I like to do that on a weekly basis, preferably for an entire day. That doesn't always happen, but it is definitely always a good solid, at least 6 to 8 hour chunk of time where I am not doing anything except what I want to do. And I think that's important to keep that healthy relationship with the things that you want to show up for. And then LifeVantage pretty much takes up all the other time. But the thing about it is not just putting it in your calendar, but it is actually showing up and doing it. So my LifeVantage work is actually like cut up into like, this is when I'll be doing social media work. This is when I'll be actually reaching out to people. And I think those are the two areas I focus the most on: reaching out, and making myself more attractive on the social media plane so that people are reaching out to me more than I end up having to reach out to people. And ultimately, that's where I see my summer going, creating something on social media that's more attractive and more interesting and more curiosity building so that people are reaching out to me. That is my summer plan.
Love it. Totally love it. The painting that Jessica sits in front of, it used to hang in our restaurant here in Kapa'a. So I always love watching her talk on Zoom. Love all those tips, Jess. Wow, both of you. Okay, so we have 2 more distributors that are going to share, and I just want to put a shout out that at the end of the call, we're going to have an update from Dr. Beatty, who shared on our call a few weeks ago and blew us all away. But first, let's go with Perot to Audrey Wu. Are you ready to share? Audrey is a resident of New York, and someone who joined our team late last year and, ran to Pro 2, I think, in like less than 2 weeks, and just someone who, her and I have a little bit of a problem having phone calls that are less than 2 hours long because we just want to talk about this, and she's just one of us. She's a little obsessed and also fitting a lot of life in and having a lot of things come up for her now that New York is opening up. And so I asked her to share because she's doing the juggle and she's doing it pretty well. So go ahead, Audrey Wu. Thanks for sharing with us.
Jennifer. So New York is opening. It is so hot today. So I definitely feel like I just finished like a birthday month. I definitely feel like it's summer in the city for me. And because I started LifeVantage, recently, there's no normal because we went through a pandemic and then now the city's open. So basically I found that I was going out, having a lot of fun, meeting new people. I'm very much a people person. So when I meet a new bunch of people, it's just like, wee. And so, for example, I want to share how you can drip LifeVantage everywhere, wherever you go. And so, for example, I went to a brunch, friend of mine, I kind of knew some of these people, and then, some people I didn't know at all. but one of the people is a customer, and he loves Axio. Anyways, real sweetheart. And somewhere in the brunch, she goes, tell them about Pretandum. And so there's like a group of 5 other people. And I was like, oh, yes. So, I talked about Pretandum. I got an immediate customer. 2 others are customers to be. And so that's like a great way to go, right? And of course, to have the validation of a friend say, tell them about Pretandum, nudging you. And, but, you can do this everywhere. I mean, now that I'm meeting people and I realized, God, I haven't been going out for so long. This is so easy, because when you're on a Zoom, it's like, okay, the Zoom's for a purpose. You don't just go, oh yeah, by the way, I mean, but when you're at a table during brunch, it's all leisurely, it's chill, and you could just sort of segue into all kinds of things. So the way you can drip LifeVantage everywhere over the summer is you talk about the products. You think about like what somebody might have said, like, oh gosh, I was so anxious this whole year at the pandemic. You can talk about Axio, the Omegas. You can talk about Pretandum. The skincare is so awesome. I was dripping on the new customer and I said, oh, it's so great that you like the products because, I love the new serum. It's so awesome. They put the same NRF2 in it. She's like, that's really cool. So you just drip. It's not like they need to be a customer right then and there for another product. Just drip, drip, drip. And then, if they're a customer, you say, how's everything going? And you want to service them immediately. Like one customer wanted a subscription sort of adjusted. So I just tried to do that as soon as possible for her so that she feels really good about it. And then, and I rave about the customer service. I mean, you just raving and dripping how great LifeVantage is everywhere. And then if it's appropriate and you really like this person, you can say one day, you might be really great at this. So one of my customers is a flight attendant, and she's like just so social too. And she's kind of a new friend. So I have that in my little bag of things to say. And one day I want to say that to her, like, hey, you would be really great at this. And, you love girlfriends. You could like really cement your community, when you do a LifeVantage business. It's like, it's one of those activities. It's one of those great byproducts, if you will. You're not just doing your business, but you're really bringing like the people you like even closer to you. Or you could say, I'd love to be, along those lines, I'd love to be working with you. And then if you think it makes sense, my colleagues are making so much money. I mean, this is really, you talk about the income and how within reach it is. And then for me, for example, this weekend, I'm going to see someone I haven't seen in a really long time. And she had come on a call. It wasn't for her, but you know what? I mean, because you can do the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th drip. In other words, they've already said no, but the fact that you're still in the business, because for me, I connected with them the first month and I was so excited. And then they say it's not for me or not now or whatever. But the fact that you're still in it 5 months later, 6 months later, a year later, whatever it is, gives more validity in their minds about what you're doing, right? It gives more credibility to the product, to the business and everything. And then also they know you're not just doing it for a month. They know you've been in it for 6 months, a year, or whatever. So when you say, oh, I really love the products and I love the group, the business group that I'm in, whatever, that you would say to them. And you can ask them for referrals. And because they know you're in it, it's like, I make art. So it's like when people are collecting your art, they don't want to know, they may not, like a serious artist, they don't want to just buy your art and then you stop making art. Because it's like, well, we had this artist and we really liked her, but if they're a collector, they want to know that this artist is making art and making art and making art. And they've got an Audrey Wu or a Jennifer Alice Murray or whatever, right? They have this piece. So when you're in the LifeVantage business like this, they want to know people want to know that you're in it. You're in it for the long haul, and it just gives, more credibility to everything you're doing. And so when you ask them for referrals, or tell them one more time, or ask them, if they'd like to look at this or see another video, they just know you're serious. So that is my share.
I love it. Thank you so much. A lot of people have a little bit, it takes time for some people to like really learn to drip it into casual conversation, but everybody wants to know what we're doing. Everybody asks us, what are you doing? And sometimes we leave it out and we think, why did I leave it out? I should have said what I'm doing, because it's not like you just said, it's not like they have to order right that minute. It's in their head, they're watching us, they're thinking about becoming a collector, and they see us taking it seriously for longer periods of time, and then they're more interested. So thank you so much. I got a big smile out of one of Audrey's customers. We were just trying to figure out why he wasn't happy. He wanted less product. He only wanted to take half a Tri-Synergy. We were just like, oh, is he low on money? No, he wasn't low on money. He's 75 years old and he has too much energy. He was like, I don't need this much energy. I'm 75 years old. I don't know what to do with all this energy. I was grateful with half, the increase. I'm just going to take half the Tri-Synergy. We were cracking up. We're like, wow, we thought he was like unhappy. We were trying to crack that code. No, perfectly happy, overly happy. Go ahead and ask. So anyway, thank you, Audrey. Petra Ferraz, you appear to be in a car. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. Petra is someone who has an incredible story, and someone who the summer is on for her too. It's on big time. I was talking to her today. She's got a lot of responsibilities, and she is what we call in LifeVantage a hyper enroller, someone who has enrolled, let's just say, a lot of people. Plenty dips in the pool. She's got lots of bathing suits. So Petra, also, yes, you were saying you had a week with Rob Sperry and gleaned some things from him. And so just go ahead and share with us how you're sort of handling all these intense summer distractions.
Yes. So I had an interesting month because so far I know we're almost to the end of the month. So this will be, I think, my very first month where I won't get a dip in the pool since I started. But it has a lot to do with my usual commitment in June. In June, this week commitment of basically doing a children's camp. Let's put it that way. Our church has a big camp meeting, and some of the children are kept 8.5 hours a day, 8 days in a row. And it's my husband's and my responsibility to come up with the programming, prepare for all of that, do the setup, and run the program. So those end up being about 12 to 14-hour days. And the interesting thing is that I thought I wouldn't be able to do any LifeVantage business in that time because time just wouldn't allow for it. But I realized that when you are doing this consistently over time, sometimes even if you don't have time to reach out to people and pursue the business, some of the business will come to you as long as you also know how to know how to learn to follow it up. So I prepared for this. It's really a 3 to 4 week stint with all the preparations that were necessary for it. So that's why June was pretty much almost dead for me on the LifeVantage side, because it's a more than full-time commitment where I'm glad if I get enough sleep. And I had prepared for this in a way where I have saved some scripts in my notes on my phone, where if I found that I had written out a really good script for somebody who showed interest with maybe who had cancer or who had one condition or another, and I would save those scripts in my notes so I could quickly pick it up from there when somebody would ask me about it, and then just personalize it for that follow-up text that is good to send. And as it happened, I had people reach out to me in that time with questions that were referred from other customers. So that made it a little easier using my scripts from my notes to be really quick and not take so long as I usually do with my follow-up texts. And I didn't have time for follow-up calls, but I would tell people, I have this very busy time at the end of it, and I gave them the deadline. Today happens to be my first free day, and I finished this time commitment yesterday. So today I'm following up, and I told people that reached out to me, I will be able to call you after that time. So that is how I managed to somehow bridge this tricky gap for myself. And it seems to work because I have a lot of leads right now that I can follow up with that came about during a time when I wasn't able to reach out to anybody or really do anything much in the form of phone calls. I could send a few texts, but not even all that many. So that I found that was the first time experience since I started almost exactly a year ago, not quite a year ago, but I look forward to doing all the follow-up work now. One thing that I also learned from Rob Sperry in this prize that I won, I think 3 weeks ago from Daisy, with where she was 3 people won like a week with Rob Sperry. He said, there might be times when the schedule just doesn't allow to do your full amount of reaching your goals for every day or week. But even in this busy time, I managed to do a little something, not every day like I normally do. And that's my standard goals. I couldn't reach in that time, but for the week I could. I could even reach out to 2 people. No, actually I didn't reach out. I could really have a good conversation with people that reached out to me in person. So looking back at those very busy weeks, I still had 2 people, one for each week, that I could have lengthy conversations with because they came to seek me out where I was and speak to me. So that was nice. And I come to realize that a lot has to do with just having, as Rob Sperry said, our minimum goals for not just our personal growth, but our action and our thinking, and also our weekly standard goals. And maybe one thing that I really liked is that he kind of split it up. We have our minimum goals, our standard goals, and then these bursts where we do above average, especially when we have some good incentives given to us by our lovely upline or even the Life Advantage company. So that seems to have really worked well to not always expect for that work to be the same, but that there are different periods of time. As long as we stick with it, we stay consistent, and we don't just get discouraged and follow that that temptation of wanting to give up because it's not going quite the same. It's not, the business might not be growing at the rate that we would like it to, but just to stick with it. And periods of not such great growth, as long as we're consistent, will be followed by more profitable periods again. So it's just a matter of sticking with it and being consistent.
Yeah, being consistent. I love that. And I love you're living proof that if you work hard when you can, the business will just sort of come to you a bit. Sounds like people are coming to you and asking you, and you don't even really have enough time to respond to them. So that's a really, really great way to see what Jennifer McTighe was talking about at the beginning of the 90-day business, that it doesn't all happen the day that you hope it will or want it to, but when you do the work, it keeps coming. Well, first of all, thank you to everyone who just shared. And I know it's supposed to be a 30-minute call, but I absolutely could not resist. I know that all of us were just completely blown away a few weeks ago when Rusty hosted the call and Angela had Dr. Beatty come on and share his story with us. And I got a call right before we were coming on today saying that we had an update from Dr. Beatty on his story and his situation. And so I wanted him to share. So Doctor, why don't you unmute yourself and just for the sake of making it really clear, you could share, first of all, you're a doctor of internal medicine. You're from California, but you have moved to Tennessee. Angela came to you as a nurse at a time when you could share maybe what you were going through, what your diagnosis was. Of course, this is, in this business, we're always sort of wanting everyone to be super compliant, and you have the story that like breaks all the rules, but it just fills us up with so much belief that it's worth sharing what you've been going through and maybe just what happened today or with your most recent visit with your oncologist.
Well, thank you all.
So,
Greetings from Tennessee. I'll start by saying that back in 1972, 73, I know you weren't around, but I was just starting graduate work at UCLA in a laboratory that was heavily into DNA work. And I kind of cut my teeth there for 4 years before I got into medical school. Ended up finishing at UCLA Medical School and then went on to residencies. But the passion that I've had from the get-go has been to try to find out what is really wrong and how to fix it from the inside out, not just putting Band-Aids on hemorrhages. And I did a lot of that in the trauma business. But in our situation, I was told in September that the results of the biopsy of my shoulder was a pretty grim, advanced, or very aggressive, undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma, UPS, that was metastasized to 3 places, and that that does not bode well. And so for 4 months, following the excision, which is a big end block resection cancer surgery on my shoulder, I had nothing but another UCLA person, and that was Jennifer Wachowski, and Angela Wachowski, and sorry, Angela. And she related to me her story. And I said, well, I'm game because I'm not doing anything else. And 4 months went by from the time that I had that second surgery, which you could argue was taking away some of the cancer. I had nothing go on to treat this cancer. We talked to this university and that university about getting proton therapy and yada, yada. Nothing happened with the exception of one thing, and that is Angela plugging me into Protandim. I immediately started my research into Protandim and found how important that has been, because since 1972, I knew there were pieces missing that could explain why we get sick. And that's certainly the work of the brilliant minds, whether it's Joe McCord or his Japanese partners, on and on. They have absolutely nailed it. They discovered enzymes that were not even known, that were antioxidant enzymes, and then they were able to figure out how these enzymes are triggered in bursts so that we can use them to protect ourselves. And you know the story from there. The antioxidant response element, ARE gene, is triggered by the protein NRF2. And it then is able to get freed up, go into the nucleus, turn on very specific gene, and that gene then is able to turn on 500 other genes. That is the piece that was missing for all the time I was in graduate work and all the time that I had been in medicine, because it had to be there and we didn't know what it was until this work was done. So that being said, again, a 4-month interval of nothing being done with a very aggressive cancer. I got my PET scan result from my dear friend and oncologist who I've referred way too many cancer patients to over the past 4 years. And he looked at me and said, Doug, I don't know what's going on because this just doesn't happen. And I said, well, tell me what you got. He said, well, your PET scan is completely cold. PET scans look for hot spots, which are collections of tumor cells. And I had 3 different locations for them. Shoulder, vertebrae, and then left upper lung. And they're all gone. And he said, I said, oh, doesn't that cause you a little, isn't that a bit of a mystery to you? You certainly can't tell me that proton beam therapy had an effect on my lung because it wasn't directed there. You can't tell me that Keytruda, which has only started 3 weeks before I had the biopsy done and the CT scan done in rebuilding my spine, which told us, whoa, there's some improvement here. Well, this now shows us a completely clean PET scan with a highly active, high-grade cancer that has a dismal prognosis. And that's, I can only attribute to prayers from many, many people, but also the fact that Protandim now has many, many articles of how it works to prevent the progression of cancer cells to becoming metastatic cancer cells in melanomas and in prostatic cancers, and then on and on and on. And I knew this had to be the case. So my parting shot was, Victor, you really have to listen to me. You really have to start reading the articles, and I've brought you, what, a dozen by now? They're scientific articles, and there are 18,000 of those articles now. In 2006, there were 60. And so he said, well, gosh, Doug, do you think it'll help me live longer? And I said, does a one-legged duck swim in circles? Victor, this is helping me live longer. And that is where I am as a scientist and as a physician for many, many years, and as a cancer patient who is now in remission when no one ever gets into remission with this cancer. So I will be using that to probably be able to get this oncologist, who's not quite as old as me, I'm 71, he's in his 60s, to start Protandim. And then he may just start putting some of his patients on it. And that's my hope.
Awesome.
And that's what I want to do, is advise these docs who previously have been led down a primrose path. Oh, we have chemo, which is controlled poisoning, and we have now the immunotherapy agents. But they are not going to be able to eclipse the important protection that we get from turning on the entire antioxidant response gene network in every one of our cells.
Can I ask you, doctor, do you take all three per tandem? I'm sure people
Yeah,
want to know exactly what you take. So you take the Tri-Synergizer, and do you take Axio or Omega or any
I
of the
take
others?
I take the NAD. I take which is very important. And I could go into that for hours, but the NAD, I take the NRF1 and the NRF2. So that trilogy. And then I take Axio as well.
Okay,
So,
great.
and just as an aside, a patient that I've had for quite some time, who's quite an accomplished Special Operations Force Sergeant Major, he developed MS when he was in country in Afghanistan and was flown out and was pretty darn sick. And he has been listening to me talk to him and begging him to get started on this, because the evidence that Protandim can seriously stop the damage in MS. And now he's listening. So he is my first real patient who is going to be getting his Protandim from me. Thanks to Rusty helping me get started, and thanks to Angela.
You're so lucky. There are other success stories with this in our group. Jessica and I, our father is one of the success stories. Petra, who spoke right before you, has a cancer survival story, and we have others in our group. But you are in the unique position to not be questioned about it because you're a doctor and you understand exactly what was happening to you. And so we're just so grateful to have you. Just heads up, you're going to have a lot of followers and a lot of people over the years with lots of questions. And
yeah, let me add just one thing, and that is that one of the important diseases that this is stopping cold is Lyme disease. All right. In Tennessee, Lyme disease didn't exist here until 5 years ago because the Ixodes tick didn't come down here. Well, now it's here. So we have a whole state of doctors who are Lyme illiterate. And we have patients being started on one antibiotic, doxycycline, which is absolutely worthless for Lyme. And these patients are dying. These patients are really getting sick. And there's no one here that has anything to offer them. I intend to offer them Protandim and the other agents that we have. And I can guarantee that many of them will have the same story as Angela has, because she developed Lyme, and this is how she got it.
Well, I think I'm going to speak for Jamie Alden when I say that we'd love to have you share on the men's health call that he hosts. And sure. I don't know, will you be joining us on social media, or are you?
Well, I don't do Facebook. My Kenya mission, malaria mission in Africa, taught me not to use Facebook. So I don't do that. I'm old school.
That'll save you from stalking, but
yeah.
Everybody has Rusty's number, so poor guy.
Right. So anyhow, I'm so thankful for Angela. She was a gift from God. And she plugged me into Rusty, and Rusty's been extremely helpful in getting me plugged in, and I am not a salesman. One of these days down the line, I'll tell you the story of a person I know very well. He's my twin brother, who has another gold nugget that he started, and it was called Prunier Cognac. And it's an interesting story. I'm sitting on an incredible gold mine with Protandim in terms of its value and how many people can be seriously improved in their life, and reduction of their diseases. And the parallels between the two of us are somewhat interesting. We'll hear about that later.
Awesome. Well, for the sake of time, I guess I'll wrap it up here, but we couldn't be more grateful for that update. Congratulations. That is
Thank
so
you.
amazing to hear. I mean, you get your life back and you get to enjoy all those acres behind you. And we're
The
so,
deer enjoy it. Our deer enjoy it for sure.
yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, thank you so much.
so
And
much.
thanks to everyone for hanging in there on the call.
Thank you all. Thanks for being patient with me.
Yeah, absolutely. We love it. Aloha, everyone.